Sometimes the smallest key can open the largest door. Ethan Walker whispered to himself as the morning fog curled around the icy bridge stretching over Birchwater Creek, each plank groaning softly under his weight while his boots scraped against frost-slick wood. And beside him, Rex, his German shepherd, sniffed the air with amber eyes sharp as sunlight on steel, tail low but moving with intent, the cold wind carrying the scent of pine, wet earth, and something older, almost metallic. The elderly couple, Harold and Mabel Thompson, clutched each other's arms, shivering as their breaths formed small clouds in the crisp air, yet their faces softened with gratitude, the moment stretching with a fragile, quiet tension that made Ethan acutely aware of every sound. The faint creak of a distant tree limb, the whisper of water under ice, the rhythmic tapping of Rex's claws on the planks. Ethan adjusted the strap of his worn rucksack, feeling the familiar weight settle against his broad shoulders, a reminder of years carried in the army, of missions completed, of silence endured, of lives saved and lost, and he realized that even in this quiet, remote corner of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the past lingered like the fog, persistent and unyielding. As he steadied the couple, a sudden glint near the bridge's edge caught Rex's attention, ears pricked and growl low, insistent, as though the dog sensed the presence of something forgotten by time itself. Ethan's eyes followed, landing on a small rusted key half buried in moss and fallen leaves, its metal dulled by decades, but still holding a promise, a whisper of secrets waiting beneath the frozen ground. The key felt weighty in his gloved hand, cold and smooth, and a shiver ran through him, not from the wind, but from the anticipation of discovery, the awareness that an ordinary morning had transformed into a crossroads between chance and destiny. Behind them, the soft crunch of snow under Rex's paws marked each step forward as Ethan, heart thrumming, traced the path down the narrow forest trail, branches bowing under the frost, the scent of cedar mingling with the sharp tang of ice, guiding them toward the outline of a hidden structure barely visible through the mist. The buried house emerged slowly, a silhouette of stone and aged timber, half swallowed by roots and creeping vines, windows like watchful eyes, the roof sagging under decades of neglect, yet emanating an undeniable presence, a sense of history and care frozen in time. Ethan knelt, brushing snow from the threshold, fingertips tracing the rough grain of the door, and for a moment, he felt the pulse of lives long past echo through the walls, stories and laughter trapped beneath layers of dust and shadow, while Rex leaned close, nose twitching, as if confirming that this place had been waiting for them, that the key, the bridge, the fog, all led to this threshold where courage, kindness, and fate intersected. The wind shifted, carrying the faintest hum of something deep within the earth, a rhythm that seemed alive, breathing with them, urging them forward, and Ethan, with a quiet inhale, turned the key in the lock, hearing it click and feeling the slow give of aged hinges, a door opening not just to a hidden house, but to a revelation that would test faith, reveal secrets, and illuminate the unseen bonds that tie acts of kindness to the miracles that follow. The door creaked open slowly, releasing a faint aroma of aged wood and lingering pine sap that seemed to carry decades of stories within it, and Ethan stepped inside cautiously, feeling the familiar weight of his backpack settle across his shoulders, while Rex padded silently beside him, amber eyes scanning every shadow and corner with alert precision. Dust motes floated in the pale light that filtered through narrow windows, and the floorboards underfoot groaned softly, as if whispering secrets of lives long past, while the air carried a chill that made Ethan draw his coat tighter, each breath forming a small cloud in the still room. The interior revealed a long hallway lined with faded photographs, yellowed letters, and small trinkets arranged meticulously along shelves, the care evident even through the dust, and Ethan ran his gloved hand along the rough wood, feeling the grooves worn smooth by countless touches over decades. Rex sniffed along the floor, nose twitching, tail low but moving with a deliberate rhythm, as if sensing the story hidden within these walls, nudging Ethan toward a small trapdoor beneath a frayed rug. Ethan knelt, brushing the dust away, revealing an iron ring embedded in the wood. With a steady pull, the trapdoor lifted, releasing a cool draft that smelled faintly of earth and stone, and a narrow staircase spiraled downward into shadow. He paused, listening to the soft hum of the wind above, the distant call of a raven, and the subtle creak of the house settling, and then descended slowly, each step deliberate, with Rex close behind, ears pricked, every muscle tense but controlled. At the bottom, the passage opened into a small chamber, walls lined with shelves that held jars of preserved herbs, old journals bound in cracked leather, and tools whose purpose Ethan could only guess, the scene radiating a quiet, almost reverent sense of time suspended. In the center, a small chest lay half-hidden under a thick layer of dust. Ethan knelt, heart beating steadily, and carefully lifted the lid, revealing neatly folded papers, a brass key, and a collection of photographs capturing moments of family, celebration, and life long before the world had forgotten this hidden place. Rex circled, nose lifting sense of age and care, amber eyes meeting Ethan's with understanding, as if confirming that this was the discovery they had been guided to, a legacy waiting to be honored. Ethan took a deep breath, allowing the magnitude of the moment to settle in, feeling the quiet pulse of history around him, the tangible presence of human kindness and meticulous care left behind for someone who would recognize it. And he realized that this place, these objects, and the very act of uncovering them were more than a secret. They were a bridge connecting past and present, a reminder that small acts of goodness ripple forward, eventually revealing miracles where one least expects. And as he carefully gathered the papers and artifacts, planning to carry them back with reverence, the soft light of morning filtering through the stairwell above, he felt a rare, profound sense of peace, the kind that comes not from triumph or reward, but from being exactly where one is meant to be, guided by loyalty, intuition, and the quiet call of destiny. The soft glow from the small lantern Ethan had carried flickered across the chamber walls, casting long shadows that danced along the shelves filled with artifacts, letters, and jars of dried herbs, each one a silent testament to the care and life that had once thrived in this hidden sanctuary, and he could feel the weight of history pressing gently on his shoulders, a quiet reminder that he was now part of a story that had waited decades for someone to find it. Rex stepped carefully beside him, nose low to the floor, sensing every change in the air, ears twitching at the faintest whisper of sound that might signal a secret yet uncovered. Ethan moved toward a corner where a stack of old journals sat, the leather covers cracked and faded, the edges curled from years of time, and he lifted one slowly, flipping through pages filled with meticulous handwriting and sketches of the land surrounding the buried house, noting maps, planting schedules, and careful observations that spoke of patience, resilience, and devotion to a life quietly lived. The air was thick with dust, but it carried the scent of wood and earth, grounding him in the present while simultaneously connecting him to the people who had once moved carefully through this space, leaving hints and stories behind for those willing to look. And as he read, the faint sound of the wind outside blended with the subtle creak of the floorboards and the soft padding of Rex's paws, forming a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat of the house itself. He carefully set the journal aside, noticing a small drawer built into the wall, half hidden behind a loose stone, and with a gentle push, it opened to reveal several envelopes tied with ribbon, each containing photographs, receipts, and personal notes, fragments of everyday life that somehow felt sacred in their preservation. Ethan's eyes lingered on a black and white photograph of a young couple standing proudly in front of the very house he now explored, smiles bright, hands clasped, unaware of the decades that would pass before another pair of eyes would see them again. Rex nudged him lightly, amber gaze meeting his with an understanding that words could not convey, as if urging him forward to continue piecing together the story, to honor the lives captured in the dust and shadows. Ethan carefully gathered the papers and artifacts, feeling a deep reverence for the meticulous care and thought that had gone into preserving them, and he realized that each item, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, held a key to understanding the full legacy hidden beneath the frozen surface of the world outside. Stepping back to take in the room as a whole, he allowed a rare smile to form, the quiet satisfaction of being exactly where he was meant to be, uncovering not only a hidden treasure, but also a story of human kindness, patience, and the ripple effect of deeds long past. And as the first pale sunlight began to filter through the narrow windows, dust motes drifting like tiny stars in the morning light, Ethan knew that this moment, this discovery, was the beginning of a new chapter, a continuation of a legacy that he and Rex were now entrusted to carry forward, one careful step, one gentle breath, and one loyal paw at a time. The sun had risen higher now, casting a soft, golden light through the narrow windows of the buried house, illuminating the dust-laden shelves and the intricate patterns etched into the wooden beams, and Ethan Walker felt a quiet awe wash over him as he traced the grooves with his gloved fingers, each one telling a story of hands long gone, but remembered through the care they had taken. Rex padded silently beside him, ears alert, tail swaying gently, sniffing the air for any hidden detail and every small sound. The creak of the floorboards, the faint whistle of the wind outside, the distant tapping of a loose shutter, added to the rhythm of discovery that filled the chamber with life. Ethan moved carefully through the room, picking up a small bundle of letters tied with faded ribbon, the handwriting delicate and precise, each word conveying the everyday hopes, worries, and joys of a family who had once called this place home, and he felt the hum of connection across decades, as though the house itself acknowledged his presence, welcoming him as the next steward of its secrets. A shelf near the back held jars of herbs, seeds, and small hand tools, preserved meticulously, and Ethan imagined the care it must have taken to organize and maintain them, feeling a deep respect for the quiet lives that had unfolded here. Each gesture, each note, a whisper of patience and devotion. Rex stopped suddenly, nose lifted, ears pricked, and led Ethan to a corner where the floorboards were slightly raised. Kneeling, Ethan pressed his hands against the cold wood, sensing the subtle vibrations beneath, a heartbeat of the house hidden under layers of earth and stone. Pulling aside a small panel, he revealed a tiny metal box, edges rusted, contents carefully wrapped in cloth, photographs of children laughing in a garden, a ledger with neat entries of harvests and trades, and a folded map showing the surrounding woods with notations marking hidden pathways and safe havens. Ethan's eyes lingered on the photographs, the smiles frozen in time, and he realized that these simple, tender moments held the essence of a legacy, a testament to the resilience, hope, and love that had endured even when the world above had moved on. He carefully laid each item back into the box, closing it gently, the lock clicking softly, and Rex nudged his hand, a reminder that this was not merely a collection of objects, but a story waiting to be carried forward. As he stood, the soft sunlight touched the walls, highlighting the texture of aged wood and the faint scratches left by years of care and life. And Ethan felt a rare stillness settle over him, a moment of clarity where past, present, and future converged, reminding him that the smallest acts of dedication, the kindness of a lifetime, and the loyalty of a faithful companion could ripple outward to create a quiet miracle, waiting patiently for someone to recognize, honor, and continue it. Ethan Walker stepped back, allowing the warmth of the morning sunlight to filter fully into the buried house, dust motes floating like tiny stars in the golden glow, and he could feel the energy of the place settling around him, a quiet hum that seemed to acknowledge his presence as if the walls themselves were breathing. Rex padded carefully beside him, tail low but swaying in deliberate rhythm, nose twitching as he caught every scent lingering in the corners of the chamber, the faint perfume of aged wood mixed with the earthy scent of the surrounding forest filtering in through narrow cracks. Ethan moved toward a small workbench at the far end of the room, its surface cluttered with faded papers, glass jars, and a few hand tools worn smooth from decades of use. And as he ran his gloved hands over the rough wood, he imagined the hands that had crafted, repaired, and maintained this hidden space, their care preserved in every scratch and stain. The quiet tick of a small clock, long stopped yet somehow steady in presence, filled the space with a rhythm that mirrored his own heartbeat, steady, deliberate, focused on the task of uncovering the layers of life that had been stored here. He carefully picked up a bundle of letters tied with fraying twine, the envelopes delicate and yellowed, and as he lifted them, he felt a gentle tug on his sleeve. Rex had paused by a corner where a faint outline of stone hinted at a secondary hatch beneath the floor. Ethan knelt, brushing away decades of dust and debris, revealing the outline of the hidden door, iron ring cold under his fingers, and with a steady pull, the hatch shifted, revealing a descending staircase hewn from the stone of the earth itself, spiraling into shadow, a narrow passage that seemed to whisper promises of more to discover. The air that rose from below was cool and smelled faintly of minerals and damp earth, carrying with it the weight of history and the quiet patience of those who had walked these steps before. Ethan descended carefully, Rex following, Paws silent on the stone, each step measured, their breaths forming small clouds in the chill air, echoing softly against the walls. At the base, a small chamber opened before them, filled with shelves holding jars, bundles, and objects arranged with meticulous care, the faint traces of long-gone hands evident in the placement of each item. In the center, a chest of aged wood sat waiting, and Ethan knelt, opening it slowly to reveal photographs, letters, and personal mementos, each telling a story of family, perseverance, and the simple joys of life long past. The images of children playing in gardens, notes written with careful handwriting, and maps marked with secret paths painted a vivid picture of lives once lived fully, and Ethan felt a profound connection to the unseen caretakers, their lives intersecting with his own through the act of discovery. Rex nudged him gently, amber eyes meeting his, an unspoken understanding passing between them that they were now part of this story, entrusted with carrying forward the legacy of care, kindness, and resilience embedded in every object. Ethan carefully gathered the artifacts, placing them in his backpack with reverence, feeling a deep sense of purpose and gratitude, knowing that the hours spent uncovering these hidden treasures were not merely about the objects themselves, but about honoring the human spirit that had preserved them. And as the first light of the sun filled the chamber with warmth, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, the kind that comes from being exactly where he was meant to be, guided by loyalty, patience, and the enduring presence of his faithful companion. Ethan Walker stepped carefully up the narrow spiral staircase, Rex close at his side, the soft scrape of paws against stone mingling with the faint hum of the wind outside, carrying the earthy scent of frost and pine through the hidden passages, and each step seemed to echo through time, connecting the present moment with decades of history preserved in this buried house. Sunlight filtered through small cracks in the walls, casting long, shifting patterns across the floor, illuminating jars, tools, and handwritten notes that lined the shelves, each item a quiet testament to patience, care, and a life devoted to simple, meaningful acts. Ethan paused at a corner where the wall seemed slightly out of alignment, brushing away dust and finding a small latch nearly hidden under a layer of debris. The metal was cold beneath his gloved fingers, worn smooth by years of handling, and he pulled it gently, revealing a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside lay more photographs, delicate sketches of the surrounding forest, and a stack of letters tied with ribbon, the paper brittle but legible, the words carrying the voices and emotions of people who had lived, laughed, and dreamed in this very space. Rex sniffed at the contents, amber eyes bright and alert, as if acknowledging the significance of what had been uncovered, guiding Ethan to handle each item with care and reverence. He knelt, carefully sorting through the letters, discovering details of family life, seasonal celebrations, and observations of the natural world, all preserved meticulously, the small handwriting a reminder of the time, effort, and love invested into each note. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood, earth, and faint traces of dried herbs, creating a sense of connection across generations, and Ethan felt a growing awareness of the responsibility he now carried as the steward of these hidden stories. He gently set the items back in their places, taking a moment to absorb the quiet significance of the chamber, the sunlight warming the floor beneath his boots, the faint creak of wood beneath Rex's paws forming a rhythm that resonated with his own heartbeat. With a deep breath, he rose, letting his gaze sweep across the room, taking in the meticulous order and care evident in every corner, feeling the presence of those who had come before him and the unspoken trust that had been left behind, a gift of legacy and guidance. Stepping carefully toward the stairs, he felt a sense of peace settle over him, a quiet fulfillment in knowing that each discovery, each gentle touch, and each observation would now be carried forward, honoring the past while creating a bridge into the future, and Rex nudged him gently, tail low but steady, a silent companion sharing in the understanding that kindness, patience, and attention to detail could ripple across decades, leaving echoes of hope, trust, and human connection in the world. Ethan Walker emerged from the lower chamber, carrying the small chest and bundle of letters with a careful reverence, the morning light spilling across the rough stone walls and illuminating dust motes that floated lazily in the air like tiny sparks of memory, and Rex padded close beside him, ears pricked and eyes alert, tail swaying with a steady rhythm that mirrored Ethan's heartbeat, each movement deliberate, conscious of the weight of history now in their hands. The hallway above felt warmer in the rising sun, the faint scent of pine and aged wood blending with the cool air that seeped through narrow cracks in the stone walls, creating a sense of quiet continuity, as though the house itself exhaled a sigh of recognition and approval. Ethan paused at the top of the spiral staircase, looking down into the chamber they had just explored, imagining the careful lives that had unfolded there, the stories preserved in the meticulous organization of tools, letters, photographs, and jars of dried herbs, each item a testament to patience, thoughtfulness, and an enduring respect for the natural rhythms of the world outside. He set the chest carefully on a sturdy table near the window, sunlight glinting off its worn edges, and opened it once more to inspect the contents, tracing the photographs with a gloved fingertip, reading the notes aloud softly to himself, savoring each word and image as though he could hear the whispers of the past carried across the decades. Rex nudged the side of the chest, a gentle reminder that discovery was best shared, and Ethan allowed the dog to sniff and inspect, amber eyes following every movement, affirming the connection between the two companions and the place they had uncovered together. He sorted the letters, grouping them by subject and age, laying them carefully on the table, noticing subtle details in handwriting, the folds of paper, and the texture of the envelopes that spoke to the character and care of their original owners. The photographs, faded but vivid in their composition, captured scenes of children playing in gardens, families gathering for meals, and quiet moments of reflection in sunlit rooms, the lives frozen in time, yet suddenly alive again in Ethan's presence. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint aroma of snow-dusted pine and earth, and Ethan closed his eyes for a brief moment, inhaling deeply, letting the scent anchor him to the scene, feeling the continuity of kindness, diligence, and attention to detail that had preserved these treasures. He realized the true value of what he had uncovered was not in any material sense, but in the resonance of human intention and care, the way small, thoughtful actions could ripple through time, waiting for someone with eyes and heart open enough to receive them. Rex pressed gently against Ethan's side, and he smiled, the weight of solitude and struggle lifted slightly by the presence of his faithful companion and the tangible echoes of lives carefully lived, the quiet pulse of the house, and the morning light reminding him that discovery, loyalty, and patience can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, and that in honoring the past, he was now part of a living story that would continue forward, bridging decades with every careful step and thoughtful touch. Ethan Walker stepped out of the narrow stairwell into the sunlit main chamber, the soft warmth of the morning light spilling across the worn wooden floor and illuminating the subtle textures of dust and grain in the walls, and Rex padded beside him, ears flicking to every creak and distant whisper of wind, tail swaying with deliberate ease as if attuned to the rhythm of the hidden house. Ethan set down the small chest carefully on a table near the window, and the faint scent of aged wood mixed with the crisp morning air, carrying the earthy aroma of the forest outside that had slowly crept through the stone cracks over the decades. He looked around, taking in the meticulous arrangement of shelves filled with jars, notes, and photographs, the evidence of quiet lives devoted to care and patience, and he felt a deep connection to the people who had inhabited this place, their presence almost palpable in the deliberate organization and preservation of every object. Rex paused, nose lifted toward a narrow gap under the far wall, ears pricked in anticipation, and Ethan followed, discovering a small latch partially hidden under a layer of dust. His gloved hand lifted the panel to reveal a shallow compartment built into the stone foundation, holding another collection of letters and photographs, each one carefully wrapped and preserved. The ink faded but legible, capturing moments of everyday life with vivid detail. Ethan gingerly examined the contents, reading notes about seasonal work, family gatherings, and reflections on the passage of time, feeling a sense of reverence for the thoughtfulness and diligence that had gone into documenting these memories. Outside, the faint rustle of leaves and the morning breeze mingled with the distant call of a bird, and the gentle hum of life beyond the walls reminded him that the world above continued. Yet within these chambers, time had paused, allowing him to step into a story that had been carefully hidden for decades. He placed the letters back in the compartment, closing it with a soft click, the sound reverberating lightly through the chamber, and Rex nudged his hand with encouragement, eyes bright with understanding, guiding Ethan toward the next discovery. A small table in the corner revealed a stack of maps and diagrams, showing paths through the surrounding woods, landmarks, and safe passages, marked with careful notations, and Ethan realized that these had been tools for living in harmony with the land, a silent testament to wisdom and foresight. As he examined the maps, a sense of continuity and purpose settled over him. The realization that he had become part of a legacy that demanded respect and stewardship, the echoes of human care resonating in every corner. Taking a deep breath, Ethan allowed himself to absorb the quiet majesty of the place, the sunlight reflecting off the dust motes like tiny stars, the subtle creak of the floorboards beneath Rex's paws forming a rhythm that matched the pulse of his own heartbeat. And he understood that this hidden house was more than a repository of objects. It was a vessel of memory, kindness, and enduring human spirit, and that every careful step he took, every item he touched, would carry that spirit forward, into the present and beyond. Ethan Walker carefully packed the last of the letters and photographs into his rucksack, the gentle weight settling against his broad shoulders as sunlight streamed through the narrow windows, dust motes drifting like suspended memories in the warm golden light, and Rex padded close beside him, tail swaying slowly, nose twitching at the faint scent of pine and aged wood that seemed to linger in the corners of the room. The buried house was silent now except for the soft creak of floorboards beneath their feet and the whisper of wind slipping through small cracks in the stone walls, carrying with it the earthy aroma of the forest outside, blending with the faint perfume of dried herbs left in jars for decades. Ethan took a deep breath, absorbing the atmosphere, the sense of history, care, and patience that seemed to seep from the walls and floors, the echoes of lives lived quietly yet fully, and he felt a profound respect for the people who had created and preserved this place with such diligence. Moving toward the doorway, he paused to glance once more at the collection of photographs, letters, and maps, noticing how the sunlight highlighted the intricate textures of the wood and paper, each crease and imperfection telling a story of attention, devotion, and the passage of time. Rex nudged his hand gently, amber eyes meeting Ethan's with an understanding that needed no words, a silent affirmation that their journey together had led them to this place for a reason greater than themselves. Stepping outside, the crisp morning air enveloped them, carrying the scent of pine, earth, and distant snow, and Ethan surveyed the surroundings, the frozen creek winding below, the trees standing tall and still, shadows stretching across the ground in long, silvered fingers of light. He felt a quiet awe at the intersection of his path with this hidden legacy, understanding that the kindness, patience, and careful attention that had preserved this house and its treasures were now part of his responsibility to honor, protect, and share. With each step along the snowy trail leading back toward the main road, he carried with him not only the physical artifacts but the weight and significance of human connection, resilience, and quiet acts of devotion that span generations, a testament to the enduring power of intention and care. Rex trotted beside him, alert and steady, guiding Ethan with instinctive awareness. And as the sun climbed higher, illuminating the forest canopy with a soft glow, Ethan felt a sense of completeness, a realization that this hidden place and its treasures were now woven into his own story, bridging past and present, creating a continuity that honored both the people who had come before and the life he was forging alongside his loyal companion. The quiet resonance of the house, the subtle music of the wind, the light filtering through the trees, and the steady presence of Rex created a harmony of reflection and purpose, and as they disappeared along the winding trail, Ethan knew that this experience, this discovery, and the trust of those long gone would remain with him, a reminder that the smallest acts of care and attention can ripple through time, leaving an enduring legacy of hope, connection, and human kindness. Ethan Walker and Rex continued along the narrow, snow-dusted trail, the forest opening up into a quiet clearing where the soft morning light reflected off patches of ice and frost, and Ethan felt the serene weight of accomplishment settle in his chest, the gentle crunch of snow under his boots a comforting rhythm that mirrored the steady, assured steps of his loyal companion. He paused to glance back toward the buried house, its roofline barely visible above the drifts, a hidden world that had revealed its stories to him, and in that moment, he understood the depth of responsibility and honor that came with uncovering such carefully preserved memories. The air was crisp, carrying the mingled scents of pine, wet earth, and the faint metallic tang of frost, each inhalation grounding him in the quiet majesty of the landscape, while connecting him to the people who had once walked these woods, their care and thoughtfulness embedded in every object he had touched. Rex sniffed along the edge of the trail, ears alert, tail low but steady, guiding Ethan with instinctive awareness toward the small cabin at the edge of the clearing, the first signs of human presence after miles of undisturbed forest, the smoke from a distant chimney curling upward into the clear sky, a signal that life continued beyond this hidden sanctuary. Ethan adjusted the straps of his backpack, feeling the comforting weight of the chest containing letters, photographs, and maps, treasures that told a story of resilience, patience, and quiet acts of kindness that had endured across decades, and he allowed himself a moment to absorb the significance of what he carried, the echoes of past lives mingling with the crisp morning air. As they approached the cabin, the snow crunched lightly underfoot, and Ethan noticed the intricate patterns of frost on the windows, each delicate crystal catching the light in fleeting rainbows, a natural reminder of beauty and fragility intertwined. And Rex paused briefly, lifting a paw to indicate a small, hidden object partially covered by snow, a subtle clue perhaps left intentionally for those who were attentive and patient enough to notice. Ethan knelt, brushing the snow away to reveal a small metal emblem, engraved with initials that matched one of the letters he had uncovered, the connection sending a ripple of awe through him, a tangible link between the hidden house, the people who had lived there, and the legacy he was now entrusted to honor. The sun climbed higher, casting long, golden beams through the trees, illuminating the trail ahead and highlighting the serene expanse of untouched forest, the frozen creek glinting like glass in the morning light, and Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history and responsibility tempered by the quiet joy of discovery and companionship. With Rex at his side, amber eyes alert and reflecting the sunlight, Ethan began the careful descent toward the cabin, each step deliberate and mindful, carrying the stories of decades within the chest on his back, understanding that every artifact, every letter, every photograph was a bridge between past and present, and that in honoring this legacy, he and his loyal companion were becoming part of a living continuum of human kindness, careful stewardship, and the quiet miracles that emerge when one walks the world with attention, patience, and an open heart. Ethan Walker finally reached the small cabin nestled at the edge of the clearing, snow crunching softly under his boots and the golden morning sunlight filtering through the trees, casting long, warm beams across the frozen creek and forest floor, and he felt a profound sense of arrival, as though every step taken from the buried house to this point had been leading him to a moment carefully prepared across decades. Rex stood alert beside him, amber eyes scanning the surroundings, nose twitching at the faintest sense carried by the cold air, and Ethan allowed the dog to take point, trusting instinct and loyalty that had been honed through years of service and quiet companionship. The cabin was modest, its weathered wood and frost-covered roof blending seamlessly with the winter landscape. Yet there was a subtle aura of care and purpose that suggested a life of thoughtful presence, the kind that respected the rhythms of the forest and the passage of time. Ethan approached the door and gently pushed it open, the hinges creaking softly, revealing a warm interior bathed in the soft glow of sunlight spilling through small, frost-lined windows. Inside, the air was tinged with the scent of pine, earth, and faint traces of smoke from a recently extinguished fire, creating a sense of familiarity and welcome that contrasted with the quiet stillness outside. He set down the rucksack containing the chest and letters, glancing at the neatly arranged furniture and shelves filled with books, jars, and personal items, all meticulously placed, and he imagined the lives of those who had lived here, their daily routines, their small joys, their careful attention to every detail of their environment, preserved in the silence of the room. Rex padded beside him, ears flicking to every subtle sound, and Ethan followed the dog's lead to a corner where sunlight highlighted a small, intricately carved box, half hidden beneath a folded blanket, its surface worn smooth from decades of handling. He knelt, brushing away the dust and lifting the lid carefully, revealing more photographs, letters, and keepsakes, each item a testament to thoughtfulness, care, and the quiet endurance of memory, the faded ink and delicate paper speaking across generations. The cabin seemed to hold its breath as Ethan sorted through the items, reading the letters softly, tracing the handwriting, noting the sketches of the surrounding land and the careful observations recorded over years, and he felt a deep connection to the people who had created this space, their lives preserved not in grandeur, but in meticulous care, small acts of devotion, and the legacy of intention that endured beyond their presence. Rex nudged Ethan gently, reminding him that he was not alone, that discovery was a shared experience, and Ethan took a deep breath, absorbing the warmth of sunlight, the quiet strength of the cabin, and the resonance of lives lived thoughtfully, realizing that the stories, care, and attention preserved here were now entrusted to him, and that in honoring them, he was part of a continuum, a living bridge between past and present, carrying forward kindness, diligence, and the subtle, enduring miracles that emerge when one walks with awareness, patience, and an open heart. Ethan Walker sat by the cabin window, sunlight spilling across the floor, illuminating the worn wooden planks and dust motes that floated like tiny stars in the warm glow, and he felt a quiet fulfillment settle over him, a deep recognition of the journey he had undertaken and the treasures, both tangible and intangible, he now carried. Rex lay at his feet, ears twitching at the soft creaks and whispers of the cabin settling, amber eyes occasionally lifting to meet Ethan's gaze with a shared understanding, a silent affirmation of the bond that had guided them through discovery, patience, and quiet vigilance. The chest and bundles of letters rested nearby, their contents now carefully organized and examined, the photographs revealing laughter, family, and simple joys preserved across decades, and Ethan traced the edges with gloved fingers, absorbing the meticulous care and intention behind every item, the attention to detail revealing a life lived with thoughtfulness and devotion. Outside, the wind stirred the branches of tall pines, carrying the scent of earth, snow, and lingering frost, each inhalation grounding him in the serenity of the forest, the quiet expanse of untouched nature echoing the patience and careful consideration found inside the hidden house. He allowed himself to reflect on the moments that had brought him here, the rescue that had sparked a chain of events, the intuition and loyalty of Rex that had guided him through unseen paths, and the discovery that lay before him now, bridging past and present through the preservation of human kindness and diligence. The cabin felt alive in a gentle, enduring way, the soft sunlight highlighting the textures of wood, paper, and stone, the hum of life outside blending with the quiet presence within, creating a harmony that seemed to resonate with the rhythm of Ethan's own heartbeat. He opened a letter once more, reading the delicate handwriting that described everyday life, hopes, observations, and memories, feeling the connection across generations, the unbroken thread of human intention and care linking the past to his own experience, and he realized the profound responsibility and honor in carrying this legacy forward. Rex nudged his side, and Ethan smiled, leaning back in the chair to gaze at the cabin, the surrounding forest, and the light filtering through the windows, recognizing the subtle miracles that arise when one observes with attention, acts with kindness, and follows the quiet guidance of a loyal companion. The snow outside glimmered faintly as the sun rose higher, casting silver and gold across the frozen creek and forest floor, and Ethan felt a sense of continuity, a bridge connecting lives, time, and acts of devotion, understanding that this moment, this discovery, and the quiet lessons of patience, loyalty, and human care would remain with him always, a reminder that even the smallest gestures can ripple across time, leaving enduring echoes of hope, kindness, and the unspoken beauty of lives carefully lived. Ethan Walker stepped onto the snowy trail that led away from the cabin, the sun now fully risen, casting long golden rays across the frost-dusted trees and frozen creek, and he felt a deep sense of closure mixed with quiet anticipation, as though the discovery of the hidden house and its treasures had unlocked not only the stories of the past but also a path forward for his own life. Rex padded faithfully beside him, nose occasionally lifting to scent the crisp morning air, tail moving with a steady rhythm, and Ethan marveled at the way his loyal companion seemed to understand the significance of every step, every sound, and every subtle shift in the environment. The forest around them was serene, the snow sparkling like tiny diamonds as it reflected the light, and each breath of icy air carried the faint aroma of pine, earth, and the lingering warmth of the sun on frost, grounding him in the present while reminding him of the care and attention preserved in the buried house. Ethan paused to take in the view of the surrounding landscape, noting the distant hills, the gentle slopes of the forest, and the way the light touched every branch and frozen surface, and he allowed himself a moment of gratitude for the journey, for the acts of kindness that had led him here, and for the unseen hands that had preserved the legacy he now carried. He opened the chest one last time, lifting the letters and photographs gently, imagining the people whose lives had created these records, and felt a deep reverence for their intention, patience, and care, recognizing that the value of what he held was not in material wealth, but in the enduring human spirit and quiet miracles embedded in each careful gesture. Rex nudged his side gently, amber eyes meeting his, and Ethan smiled, feeling the bond between them strengthened by shared discovery and shared purpose. Each step along the trail now carrying a sense of meaning that extended beyond the immediate moment. As they approached the edge of the forest, the frozen creek glimmered beneath the sunlight, reflecting the sky in soft silver and pale blue, and Ethan felt a profound connection between past and present, a continuum of kindness and careful stewardship that stretched across decades, linking lives and actions in a web of quiet miracles. The cabin, now just a silhouette among the trees behind them, seemed to exhale a final breath of acknowledgement, a silent blessing for the man and dog who had honored the care of generations and would carry it forward. Ethan adjusted the straps of his backpack, carrying not only letters and photographs but the knowledge that he was part of something larger, a living story of patience, devotion, and the gentle power of human kindness. And as he walked forward with Rex beside him, the soft crunch of snow beneath their feet and the glimmer of sunlight on ice, he realized that some acts of care, some discoveries, and some faithful companions have the power to ripple across time, leaving echoes of hope, healing, and enduring connection in their wake, and that the quiet miracles of life often arrive to those who remain attentive, patient, and true to the simple, steadfast goodness that guides them.